This is Kal Kat at the Kal Kat store, and this is a review of Star Trek Picard at the end of the beginning. This is a Kal Kat episode, the Browne episode. It's weird that they use that as a title, just because that's a cliche from the end of the Cognirri space books. At the end of every Browne Cognirri space book ends with the end is just the beginning, except for the last one. Which, of course, actually, maybe that one ends just the beginning too. I don't know, but the 7 books was meant to be 7. Here we have, Here we have a sort of pseudo Starcrackers as well, or Space Vanguards, Distant Destinies and Space Vanguards. Not so much a Star Trek story. We have turncoats and secret agents and not Vosh, as they call the Vosh, the evil fake Tal Shiar Vosh. Sounds like a cream, butt cream. It opens with them at Vasquez Rocks, which apparently doubles for various alien planets in Star Trek. All the way back to the classic Trek. The Picard goes to meet Raffi Musiker, who is sort of a hybrid of the Ruddy Angel character of Sillian Space, the Red Angel spoof, but also a little bit of the Jodie character from Sillian Space. But she's not. She's like some other person that just kind of emulates them a little bit. Of course, in the Sillian version, it's a spoof, and she's basically the Andover character of Julisse in the parody. But here she's not, obviously, because you wouldn't know what that is, because it hasn't been. It's being written now. It's a spoof of Picard. There's a Discovery spoof, and there's a Picard spoof, and so we come to this movie, this Musiker character, who isn't really those people. I'm just like paralleling it to other stuff because it's very similar. She also is a lot like the Space-Time Eye character Sassy Geneva from Browne stories again. There's a lot of that in there. I didn't write this, but it is curious that it's as if they just went online and read the synopses of some of those and thought, yeah, we'll just use that. Why don't they just hire us? Anyway, we have Musiker, who's apparently supposed to be an addict to snakeweed. And it's obviously the wacky tobacco. Okay, she got the tobacco out. That's it. They might as well just say, okay, this is kind of offensive a little bit. It's like the half black lady likes the wacky tobacco. It's like come on movie, come on, yeah. And also wine, Picard's wine. There's a flashback to 14 years earlier after the fleet was destroyed. Admiral Picard and Vicky, she's apparently his first officer, I guess. They weren't too clear on that. Replacing Madden from who wasn't actually seen, but only in the Generations stories. Not Generations. The Nemesis story. Then we cut to he convinces her to hire a pilot. Then we meet Rios, who is basically Mako. He's Mako. He's Leo Star or Lelantos from the Sillian stories, or both together, sort of mixed together. Confusingly enough, he has an EMH who talks British and is acting sort of like a spoof of Mark's Cards meets Doctor Who. So he's got Lelantos as a hologram, which is bizarre. On his ship as an EMH. He wants to hire this guy to go and in the present, to go and find the evil Romulans. Meanwhile, Soji figures out top secret stuff over there on the Romulan artifact, or the Borg cube that got taken in the Simian sector. Sillian again. And meets this Romulan psychic witch doctor lady who is crazy, who reveals that she's a twin of this other girl, and then she figures out she's a twin, and she's sad. And meanwhile, we have the Nadvaj people attacking the chateau, which didn't make sense. They didn't do that earlier. And somehow they brought with them the girl from, this is a plot hole. They brought with them the girl that met with, who's the one of the spies. She's a Vulcan spy. And they brought, she somehow went with them. Why would the Nadvaj bad guys take the scientist from the Daystrom Institute with them to meet Picard? Why wouldn't they just whack her there? Why? Yeah, and then the evil. They have a firefight, and the scientist kills the one guy. Incidentally, 7 of 9 and Riker are not in this episode, and they weren't in the last one. So I guess that's much later that they show up on another planet. Yeah, they kept showing the preview with those two characters, but they're not in this one or in the previous one. So they escape them. Meanwhile, lady talks to the psychic, finds out that there's a twin sister who's dead, freaks her out. Boyfriend, who's clearly a bad guy, Romulan boyfriend, is clearly a bad guy, is working with his evil sister, who was in there as a Federation turncoat Commodore lady, who was a different Commodore lady. It's very convoluted. It's very Sillian. It's the Sillian saga done as a Picard series. It pushes all the same buttons that the Marshall Sportiest stories did. Ooh, conspiracy after conspiracy built on top of conspiracy, and there's like evil spies here and there. It's TMS. More so than it is the other ones, the collectives. More so than even the Starship Chimera movie. It's fine, I guess, but it is Star Trek in a sense. I mean, they do the fanfare when they take the ship at the end and they escape. But there's spoilers, obviously. It's the chick's got a tie stick. She's got like a vaping pen, a modern 2020s vaping like pot pen that she uses at one point. Geez, that would be antiquated by then. It would be like an antique. But and they've mixed up the timeline. I think possibly just because they didn't realize it's actually 2396 right now, not 2399, and they just set it arbitrarily in 2399 when all they needed to do to fix that was say, no, it's 2396, and it's not 14 years ago, it was 12. But that messes up the other parodies that follow it. So the characters have to do different things in the Sillian version. And the Sillian version will be cool and different. So it's not just a Star Trek parody. But if you happen to be a Star Trek fan, you will totally get it. And then why would you read it if you weren't? I mean, it's a Star Trek parody. But the end is the beginning. It was a piece of a segment of something. The people doing this one are clearly more in tune with the Picard thing. It's not clear why the Federation wouldn't help the Romulans by building the fleet. And the sabotage is clearly the sabotage. Like, nobody looked into that. And then the news is, they reference fake news in it. The news. The Romulan legends are the news. The fake news. It's like, wow, okay, you just blatantly made a reference to the Marshall Sportius stories. You've literally referenced that the only way they would have known that. Well, I guess there's also, they could have inferred it, I guess, from the modern news, but they didn't. They got it from Sillian space. But they didn't. It's just so... Yeah, I didn't write it, but it kind of looks like it. And Rios is clearly Mako. Clearly Mako. It's like, yeah, it's Mako. From March Arts, it's Mako. Okay. But even more so than the Sillian version. It was Starro. Even more so. Wow. If that's possible to be even more Mako than Mako. John Makos. Actually, John Makos is just a foremost word for a Sillian actor from Sillian Dragons. He's not in the... Yeah, he's not directly in it. Doesn't matter. But the Picard show is so out there, and that I'm sort of giving you this narrative that seems like the Sillian stories, even though it's not, really. It's imitating it really good, though. And they have a ship that vaguely looks like the shuttlecraft, the sort of a modified Janolan Discovery renegade shuttlecraft. And it's renegades, basically. So there's renegades in this, but 11 years after renegades. Yeah, and they look like them too, because there was a connection between renegades, Star Trek Renegades and Gods and Men, and Starship Chimera early on. So that's why they took place. Both of them took place in 2388. Also, there was another show called Excalibur, another fan film series that also was involved, which we're sort of pseudo paying homage to in the current one, and in Sillian space with other ships. Yeah, Riker, Soji, and Daj stuff. Would assume that in the Silly Track version, she doesn't actually die. Something silly happens instead. So silly happens. The bald-headed Roblin commander. Apparently, the two helpmate Romulan people are butt-kicking assassins or something. Never quite made sense, but I guess they're butt-kicking assassins. It does beg the question that if everyone's a butt-kicking assassin, don't they know? And then they would be really bad assassins immediately after that. It's like, yeah, I can see that. As a science fiction writer, it's like, yeah, you can't just say, oh, it's sloppy writing in a sense, because you're saying basically you're butt-kicking super assassins who did all this stuff, but no one else noticed. It's kind of silly. It's like, no, people don't think like that. You don't have like sound bites about like, unless it's all on a holodeck. I hope it's not all holodeck, because that'd be silly. But the British EMH thing. But isn't that AI technically? Yeah. The Rios guy just happens to have a piece of titanium sticking out of his shoulder when they meet him. That really sounds like something Lelantos would have done, or Leo Starro, either one. Yeah. Of course, in the Sillian version, Picard is actually married to Sam Clerk. There's a clerk, Lecky Clerk and Sam Clerk. Yeah, that's funny, because I wanted to do that. Except unlike Stamets and the other guy on Discovery, where they had to bring him back, they don't get killed, and then resurrected. Yeah. So there's a little hint about the Silly Track parody of Picard, Starship Clerks. Yeah. So yeah. On their mission, directly parodying this, because Discovery's plot line is completely all over the place. So I have been doing a parody of Discovery, but I haven't been really parodying Discovery. I've really been kind of doing my own thing, because Discovery is kind of weak in the first 2 seasons. So I just sort of said, no, it's during hiatus. They're not really. Anyway, so it'll make sense. But yeah, they're heavily influenced by the Picard show is heavily influenced by a number of fan films. It probably just isn't mine. Can't just be mine, because that would imply that I had some writing credits somewhere, which I did not. That'd be awesome. But no. Did not have any writing credit on Picard. So it's just that they read it and synopsises of it, and Chimera and all the hints that were in it. So let's make a show loosely based on that. They're also copying their own stuff. They're copying Discovery. So Ew, and even the end of the beginning doesn't really make. Yeah, this whole motivation for why the Starfleet would do what it's doing kind of doesn't make sense. But there were a lot of evil admirals in Starfleet, even in some of the episodes of TNG and Deep Space Nine. So maybe they have some more evil admirals. Why can't the fake news go both ways and have them say like, well, like subterfuge and shit? Yeah, I'd love being in season 2. Yeah, I like to think that my little channel would suddenly skyrocket in popularity if somehow. Oh, by the way, we're just gonna go pitch. Come back, no. Because unlike that Gamelt guy from years ago, yeah. Sure, no, we wouldn't say that. Come on. Anyway, so this was the end, is just the beginning, and yeah, it was about spies and subterfuge, and of course, the boyfriend guy turns out to be a turncoat. Of course, like didn't see that coming a mile away, and he looks like Spock from Discovery, but he's not. That beard, which they shaved off in the final episode when he came back of Discovery last season. So yeah. Star Trek Voyager actor Don Chin, who was on Voyager briefly, he actually said that he doesn't have all access. He wants to get it in March and watch all of it. But anyway, so yeah, I'm just watching it because sure. But I will get the DVD versions of these. I won't need to binge watch because I'm doing them now live. So that was the end of the beginning.